Hey everybody, it's Dr. Dave, Psychiatry. Thanks for being here today. Thanks for coming to my channel. And as usual, I encourage you to subscribe and like if you like what's going on. But the subscription, the algorithm, if you're searching for answers to problems, you put stuff in Google and you get a lot of answers. But people that say stuff that's important and meaningful, if you subscribe to them, then that gets to the top of the search and helps other people. You might, just by subscribing, you might help somebody else that you will never meet by just getting them the information that they might be searching for today. Today's information is somewhat out of my lane, but I'm going to stick with it anyhow. If you clicked on the thumbnail there, you're trying to quit smoking. And even though I'm not a smoke and cessation doctor, I'm a medical doctor. And every time I see a patient, as part of my asking about their health, have any health problems, how many kids you have, do you work, etc., one of the questions is, do you smoke tobacco cigarettes? And if the answer is yes, then typically I say, well, that's a problem we're going to have to get to. Well, I'm not sure if it's today or down the road, but nobody should be smoking tobacco cigarettes. And if you smoke tobacco cigarettes and you think you should be smoking tobacco cigarettes, that's probably another thing altogether that I can't address, because there's nothing good about smoking. And there was a time when people thought it was cool. There was a time when people thought it was medically healthy. Smoke has been used for medical purposes for hundreds of years, actually, in different cultures. But today we know that when you burn tobacco and put it in your lungs, it's a bad thing. So if you're desiring to quit smoking, I don't run a smoking cessation program, but I'm going to tell you what happened to me about, I guess it was about 6 or 8 years ago, that prompts me to do this for you today. And I tell this to people in my office when we get around to it. So now through the magic of YouTube and the internet, I can share this with millions of people, and hopefully millions of people will stop smoking. It started off with a woman who walked in and said, "Hey doc, I quit smoking." Well, I asked, okay, well, how'd you do that? She said, well, I started vaping. And I said, what's vaping? And this is before vaping was big. She said, so the vapor pipe. And I said, okay, well, what are you talking about? She said, well, I got a vapor pipe and I got as much nicotine as I'm normally using when I smoke tobacco, smoke my cigarettes, which might have been a pack a day or 2 packs a day or whatever. But I had them put the amount of nicotine in there that every time I vaped, I was getting a good solid dose of nicotine. And then after I burned that up, after I'd used the nicotine, that vapor pipe for couple of for a month or so, I asked him to dial down the percentage of nicotine in the juice. This is all new to me when I was learning about what juice was and vapor pipes. But I was curious. She said, so I just did that every month, and for the last 9 months, finally I got down to where I had 0 nicotine in my juice, and all I'm doing is vaping, and I'm not smoking tobacco cigarettes anymore. And then I quit vaping because I didn't really need to be doing it anymore, and I'd gotten the nicotine addiction out of my system. And I said, great. So I took that as a one-off, and I was sort of curious. And then the next week or two, a couple more people came in and told me the same story. So this technique has been invented by somebody else. I haven't seen it on the internet. I think it might be somewhat controversial because it encourages vaping. Well, here's the deal. If you're vaping, that's not good either. But I've seen government-based commercials or somebody's sponsored ads that makes it look like vaping is the worst thing you can do to your body. No. Short of standing in a burning building, there is nothing worse than burning tobacco cigarettes. With the tar and the nicotine, the carbon monoxide, all that stuff. If you stand in a burning building or smoke a pack of cigarettes, to me, that's about the same, except, maybe slightly less dangerous. You get to get killed long-term as opposed to short-term. And so anybody who says to me that vaping and burning tobacco cigarettes is comparable, I just don't believe. I'd like you to not inhale anything, but the strategy is you use your vapor pipe to get off the tobacco cigarettes. Now, the detail is this. So this is what you learn over time. When you're doing this, you don't want to buy an e-cigarette. You don't want an e-cigarette. You want a vapor pipe. And the vapor pipe, you want the flavor of the juice that has the nicotine. You want it to be different than tobacco. So people say that they buy things like root beer, Dr. Pepper, Sour Patch, whatever sour gummy bear. They're different flavors that they buy that are not tobacco flavored. The reason that's important is that if you're vaping something that tastes like tobacco and you've got a cigarette there and you run out of vapor juice, what do you do automatically? Screw it, I'm going to light a cigarette. What you have to do is not light another tobacco cigarette. And the reason that vaping is helping you is that it's providing the nicotine that you're addicted to. Nicotine is highly addictive. Some people say getting off cigarettes is harder than getting off heroin, which is crazy, but that's what they say. So just stopping cold turkey is something that people only mostly do when their life is actually threatened by a heart attack or a stroke or something like that. Sometimes, but I've had patients that have had heart attack or stroke and kept smoking. I don't understand it. But that's how powerful nicotine is. So I have seen in my career, I've seen things that didn't work. The first I saw when I was a med student was this thing called aversion therapy, where we would lock people in a trailer home, and we put the plastic wrap all over the windows and closed up all the ventilation, and we made them smoke cigarettes until they puked or just couldn't smoke anymore. And we choked them to death, almost to death, basically. And people still, after that, they would continue to smoke. Aversion therapy didn't work. I've seen acupuncture not work, maybe work for a few people, but not really work. Honestly, even though there's lots of ads and lots of people trying to offer you gum and patches for nicotine and things like that, long term, I don't see them work. What I've really seen work is people doing this dial down the percentage of nicotine in their vapor juice. I got so excited about it that I said I'm going to have to sell vapor pipes out of my office. And right as I had that thought, they started to spring up everywhere. So now you can't go into any town without 2 or 3 vape shops. So there now is no excuse for not being able to get a vapor pipe with a non-tobacco flavored juice. You can get that today. You could drive and go get one today. The key is you have to have a non-tobacco flavored juice, and you have to commit to not lighting another cigarette. That's the key. If you commit to not burning another cigarette, you can get all the nicotine that you need during that with nicotine withdrawal phase. And because you can dial down the percentage of the nicotine, you can get that down gradually enough to where you can get away from cigarettes. The other thing about vaping that's, I think, is better than gum and patches, things like that, is that if you've been smoking for a period of time, which for most people is a period of years, I mean, people that smoke for a week can stop. If you've been smoking for a year, it's not easy to just stop. And a lot of that is because there's not just the nicotine in your system. There's sort of almost a social aspect of having a cigarette. People smoke after a meal. They smoke on their break. They smoke, before they go to bed and other activities. So having a cigarette is something that people do. And so there's something about the vape that's different than gum, that you're inhaling something in your body. And I think that mimics the cigarette in some way that allows you to be able to eventually say, okay, I don't really need to put my hand to my mouth any longer. The risk of doing this is that you're going to do something that's not very healthy. Vaping is not healthy. I'd rather you not do anything. But if you vape for a year to get off tobacco cigarettes and you stop smoking tobacco cigarettes and you stop vaping, then you have extended your life and reduced your the burden that you're going to have in your health and the people around you that are going to have the burden if you don't stop smoking. So specifically, if you care about your children, if you care about your other family members, do something. If you know somebody who smokes and you want to share this video with them, send them to our channel. That's all I'm going to say today about vapor pipes and nicotine addiction and cigarettes. And I'm glad you were here today. Thanks for coming to see me.